are given to you. Yeah.
Sure, I'll do.
It's okay, sir. Make it a full point, sir. Full screen, sir.
Sure. Yes, I've done that.
Make it full screen and we will also check it that.
Sure.
Okay, sir. It's okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir. Welcome, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Madhavani, sir.
3 minutes will start. People are joining for 3 minutes, will start, sir. Okay. Sir? Yeah, few minutes wait.
Good evening, Madhavani, sir. Good evening. How are you?
Madhavani, sir. How are you, sir?
Fine.
Salem waiting, sir. Trichy, Salem, sir.
Tirchi da. Right now, township da.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Nice meeting you. Ama. Ada.
Okay, sir. Very good number.
Sir, Ramesh sir, we shall start, sir.
Okay, sir.
Let them join. Okay.
Sure, sure,
Happy
sure.
good evening to everyone. Today,
Hello.
we are going to celebrate
Hello, Raj.
World Standards Day. And
Hello, Raj.
the topic, the theme of today World Standard is about this year is a shared vision for a better world, which is going to be delivered by the eminent personality, Engineer M.S. Ramesh sir, former General Manager of DHL Engineering, Trichapalli, who is our chief guest today and they are accepted to deliver to the theme address today. First of all, we thank you, Ramesh sir, for accepting our invitation readily to deliver, to be the chief guest and deliver the theme today, sir. Thank you
Welcome,
so much,
sir.
sir.
Welcome,
We
sir.
are
Welcome.
very much happy to receive you, sir. Invite you for today's program.
I'm honored, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Today's webinar is organized by Institute of Engineering Trichapalli Local Center in association with the Safety and Quality Forum, New Delhi, Computer Society of India, Trichapalli Chapter, Indian Institute of Welding, Trichapalli Branch, Indian Welding Society, Southern Zone, Indian Institute of Metals, Trichy Chapter, Indian Institute of Industrial Engineering, Trichy Chapter, Indian Society of Non-Destructive Testing, Trichy Chapter, and Kumari Ariel Paravay. And we Institute of Engineers for the past 3 decades, without interruption, without non-stopping, we are continuously conducting the weekly Tuesday program. And this is before pandemic, it was in physical mode. We conducted in BHL campus, 3,000 acres campus, where we have IEI Trichapalli Local Center building, where we have Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Hall with understanding capacity. We used to conduct. After the pandemic, we switched to virtual mode. That is our 150th program actually. This is so we are more than 10 professional bodies are associated in BHL, the blessings of BHL, and we as a role model we conduct regular programs. We are associated with the other bodies. This is what about this thing. And our boundary is from Karur, Arilur, Perambulur up to Nagapattinam, excepting Tanjore. And we have more than 10,000 members, 2,500 corporate members, and 7,500 student members. And as a national level, we have more than 125 centers to carry out or to share the emerging technologies to the students, our members, our the faculties, and all the public in a free mode. That's what. So with this brief introduction, I call upon Engineer S. Karupasamy, our former chairman, to read the theme of today's World Standard Day, sir. Over to Mr. Dr. Karupasamy. Karupasamy, sir.
Yes, hello.
Please read the theme, sir.
Yes, good evening, all of you. It gives me pleasure to join with you in today's Statutory Day celebration of World Standards Day. Since these statutory days are being observed in IEI, and all the centers of IEI, and according to the topics and themes given by the IEI headquarters. Every like that, 9 statutory days are being celebrated in IEI every year. Similarly, this year, today we are celebrating the World Standards Day. And it is supposed to be these days are to be conducted on 14th October of every year. This for this World Standards Day, BIS Delhi provides the team to the headquarters, and the theme is to be communicated from headquarters to all the centers of IEI. Accordingly, they are observing the World Standards Day in all the centers. This year, theme is a shared vision for a better world. Saluraj?
Yes, sir.
You read the theme, Saluraj.
Yeah.
You read out, please.
Okay.
So with this, I will request our Salraj, former chairman. He will read out the theme, today's theme. Thank you.
Right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
This year's theme is shared vision for a better world. Is the theme of the year's World Standards Day. That is World Standards Day celebrated in October 14 every year. Actually, we celebrate October 14, but we have Tuesday programs. So it happened to be last week, and we are celebrating in this Tuesday, because following Tuesday, that's what. And raises awareness about the need for the global standardization of products and its importance to the world economy. On this day, members of the International Electrotechnical Commission, IEC, the International Telecommunication Union, ITU, and the International Standards Organization, ISO, paid tribute to the concerted efforts of thousands of experts around the globe who formulate the voluntary technical agreement, an agreement among countries, institutes, and people as to what a product or process is, what it should look like, and what it should do accomplish, published as the international standards. History of World Standards Day. The history of World Standards Day goes back to the 1946 meeting in London, which birthed the creation of the International Organization for Standardization in the following years on October 14 each year. The members of the IEC, ISO, ITU, other international standardization organizations, and people all around the world celebrate the collaborative efforts of experts, volunteers, all people around the world celebrate the collaborative efforts of experts, volunteers, and indeed who all engage in standardization activities worldwide, drawing people's attention to the importance of written standards of the global economy. As the world continues to experience rapid globalization, where markets in different commerce are increasingly becoming open, national boundaries are disappearing, and new challenges are emerging, a technical standard applicable to the all nations and people has become pertinent in the US. World Standards Day is celebrated by the standardization community in Washington, D.C., where an exhibition is conducted. So this main theme reflect on how standards help support national and international standards making organizations talk about the standards on the internet. This is about the theme of this year. And with this theme, I will call upon Engineer Madhuramani, our former chairman of Indian Institute of Industrial Engineering, to introduce the speaker to the audience. Over to Engineer Madhuramani, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening to everybody.
Good evening, sir.
On behalf of Indian Institute of Industrial Engineering Trichy chapter and other professional body members, I'm happy to introduce today's speaker, Sri M.S. Ramesh, sir. So he's a nice gentleman. Always he will be with a smiling face. With that, I am introducing him. So he got his BE honors in electrical and electronics engineering from NIT during the year 1984. He completed his ME in computer science and engineering at the College of Engineering, Guindy during 1990. He joined in BHL during 1984 as engineer and retired as general manager engineering during June 2022. He worked in various areas of BHL Trichy, especially he worked in fuel system, engineering IT, and C&I. He published 2 international papers. Papers published: POIRE, P-O-I-R-E, defining position-oriented input using regular expressions of 2 levels, an industrial case study, ISCA 23rd International Conference on Computer Applications in Industrial Engineering, Kane, during 2010 at USA. SenPlot, a software for centralized office plotting. Venue is InCare International Conference 1993. His areas of interest are engineering, automation, animation, databases. With this brief introduction, I am handing over the session to Selvaraj, sir.
Thank you, Madhuramani, sir, for introducing the speaker nice way. Thank you so much. Now,
Welcome,
today,
sir.
as Chief Justice, Mr. M.S. Ramesh, sir, who is involved in standards of BHL. He has established a lot of work done over the first 3 to 4 decades. And he is the right person to deliver the talk today. And over to Engineer Ramesh, sir, for his delivery, sir. The platform is for you, sir. Please.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
At the outset, I thank Sri Selvaraj sir and Sri Madhuramani sir for inviting me for this, for being part of the celebrations of Standards Day. Standards is an area that is close to my heart, so it's really a pleasure to be participating in such an event. And as Sri Selvaraj sir said in his opening address, opening remarks, the Standards Day is being celebrated on 14th. Actually, it's being celebrated on 14th October of every year in commemoration of the formation of the International Organization for Standardizations, ISO. So ISO was formed on 14th October, and the 14th October of every year is being celebrated as part of this, as a commemorative event for this formation. The theme is very apt for today's scenario, and I will present briefly as to what I understand by this vision. First, let us see what standards is all about. Standards, why are standards required? First thing is that standards create confidence among stakeholders. If you look at anyone, even for buying, say, grocery items, we look for an agmark symbol, is it not? So that creates confidence that the product that is being purchased meets the required quality standards. And standards is the world's common language. Suppose you have a requirement in some one part of the world, and in today's connected world, sharing of products, sharing of information across boundaries is now very common. And suppose there is a power plant coming up in a French area, in France, for example. And how do we code? Maybe BHL will be the right party to provide a power plant for this area. But then to create confidence and to understand what will be the features of this product, what will be the features of the boiler or the power station that we provide, standards will be the apt language to communicate it. We'll say that we'll construct the boiler as per ASME code, or we'll construct the boiler as per IBR code. This is what will give them, they will make them understand what we mean by what is the product that they're going to get finally. Standards ensure safety. Of course, safety is one aspect, that very important aspect that standards cater to. Standards also ensure uniformity. That is, how do you know that the product that you purchase are all uniform? That is, they are compatible with other things that you have. For example, you buy a plug, you need to ensure that it will fit into the socket. So unless it meets a standard, ensuring that it meets a standard ensures that the product will meet their functionality. And of course, standards are designed to reduce waste and produce better results. This has always been the theme. Now, what is the standard exactly? It's a written definition, limit, or rule approved and monitored for compliance by an authoritative agency or professional, that professional body as a minimum acceptable benchmark. That is, it is a written definition, limit, or rule approved and monitored for compliance by an authoritative agency or professional body as a minimum acceptable benchmark. That is, it meets a certain basic quality requirements. And GATT, the United Nations body, gives a definition as follows. That is, technical specifications contained in a document that lays the characteristic of a product, such as levels of quality, levels of performance, safety, or dimensions. In simpler terms, standard is simply an agreed way of doing something. It could be about making a product, it could be about managing a process, it could be about delivering a service, or about supplying materials. And standards, because they are formulated by a group of people, experts in that area, so they are the distilled wisdom of people with expertise in their subject matter and who know the needs of the organizations that they represent. People such as manufacturers, buyers, sellers, customers, trade associations, users, or regulators, even the government. So all these people are, the expertise of all these people is pooled in formulating a particular standard, so that the objectives of each stakeholder is met in the final product. Standards are generally classified as either government or statutory agency standards and specifications. proprietary standards developed by a firm or organization. You can see that also. No, there are some things that, for example, one particular, if you look at the PC, it was proprietary standard that was developed by IBM. So that is how it became an open standard. It was an open standard, but it was published. It was initiated, created by a proprietary body, IBM. Similarly, leading product manufacturers develop their own standards, and then they try to create the other people, that is the buyers as well as other competitors, to follow this standard. That is one type of standard. The third is the voluntary standards. They're established by consultation and consensus, and this is typically formed by organizations like ISO or British standards, or by our own Indian standards organization. All these people, they create and formulate standards that you don't need to, they are not forced, but people are free to adopt these standards so that their requirements are met in full. Examples of government standards are, of course, like things like IBR. IBR is a government regulation. Similarly, there are various terms that are being used in conjunction with standards. There are things like acts, regulations, codes of practice, standards. These are all terms that are used. Now, what is the difference between each of this is that an act is a formal description, it's a law. It's a formal description of a law passed in a state or territory, and it is intended to spell out the duties for each group that has a role to play in that with respect to that law. When an act is passed by parliament in the jurisdiction, it becomes binding, it becomes legally binding. That is how we have the IBR. IBR, if you see, there is a Boiler Act which was formed in 1950. And why this was formed is because a boiler is the fired vessel. A fired vessel can have that there is a chance of explosion. So in order to see that the boiler is built in such a way that even there is an explosion, the effects are minimized and the chances of explosion are less. So that is why the Boiler Act was passed. And the next comes we'll also look at what is a regulation next. This is an act. So act is something like a legal binding law. You don't have any way of bypassing it in that territory. For example, if you want to build a boiler in India, you have to follow the Boiler Act. There is no substitute or bypass for this. Regulations Act simply states a law. It simply says that you should follow this particular regulation. It is a short form of a legal requirement that the manufacturing buying entity will have to follow. Regulations are a more detailed set of requirements created to support the duties in the Act. So Boiler Act also has a boiler regulation, and boiler regulations are also need to be enacted or passed by Parliament in each area, in each jurisdiction in which it is applicable, so that for it to be legally binding. So regulations are more detailed. So Act will simply say that you have to do this, what is to be done, what is to be followed will only be mentioned in the Act. The regulations will give you more detailed set of requirements. What is it that you should do in order to abide by this particular, to meet this particular Act requirement. Next is the Code of Practice. Code of practices are more like practical guides as to how to achieve a particular accepted norm that is required by the Act or the regulation or by the industry. To be legally binding, a code of practice has to be approved for that jurisdiction. So generally, codes of practice will be like, for example, in the US, you have the electrotechnical code, which has to be followed. So similarly, in every country, there is a code of practice that has to be accepted, it has to be adopted in order to meet a particular legal requirement. Standards, these are usually not written by government, but by organizations such as ISO, BIS, BS, etc. They typically refer to product performance or how to do a job. The standards have no authority on their own, but they may be adopted into regulations making them legally binding. For example, then an act can, regulation can say that you have to follow ASME standard. If it says that, then that standard becomes binding. So one thing that can be seen is that an act or a regulation that is is forced by law. So there is no consensus that is necessary. No, it is not required. There is no consensus that is necessary for establishment of the regulation. They will once it is legally passed, once it is passed by the parliament, it becomes law, and there is no consensus. A manufacturer cannot say that I will not abide by this, because there is no bypass. You have to follow the regulation. The difference between a standard and a regulation lies in compliance. While conformity with standards is voluntary, technical regulations are by nature mandatory. Why do we need standards first? Standards are the world's common language, as you said. So what happens if we don't have a standard? Imagine a world where your credit card will not fit into every machine, into every cash machine, or where you could not just go into a shop and get the right light bulb for your lamp. So now you just go and purchase the lamp. You are sure that that lamp will fit into the socket. That is because both the lamp as well as the socket meet a particular standard. And a world without telephone codes, country codes, currency codes, and access to internet. So you'll not know where a call came from or how to reach a specific region. All those will not be available unless there are codes that are established through standards. In fact, a world without standards would make many of our routine activities that we take for granted much more complicated. Standards drive business efficiency, enable companies to access markets both regionally as well as internationally, and can reassure consumers that the products that they are buying are safe, reliable, and environmentally sustainable. That this environmentally sustainable is part of a new requirement that standards come up with. So to sum up, standards provide a basis for mutual understanding, that is between the buyer, the seller, and the other stakeholders. Standards form the basis for introduction of new technologies and innovations. That is, we'll have to make them mutually compatible in order to ensure that the new technologies and innovations will meet the environment available. The environment and as well as the infrastructure that is available with the user's place will be met by the new product. Standards also provide a reliable benchmark. As I said, this UGMARK and all that, they will provide a reliable benchmark of standard. That is, they ensure that this product will meet a particular minimum quality requirement. Obviously, some customers will only buy from suppliers that comply with certain standards. So this is the case generally with public sector contracts, where they will call for a particular standard and expect the suppliers to adhere to this particular standard. A standards compliance also gives you competitive advantage. So if you have two competing products, how does the buyer who is not very familiar with both, how does he choose? He will choose the one that meets a particular standard that he's aware of. So definitely standards, if you comply with standards, you have a competitive advantage. And initially, now coming to the theme of the current year, that is a shared vision for a better world. Initially, standards, as we see, focused on such aspects as commonality. That is, as I was talking about the electric plug and socket example, or safety, like the IBR. So commonality addressed the problem of scale through wider adoption, and safety was mandated to ensure that public safety was not compromised. Then currently we have issues like global warming, which have thrown up the need for concerted action and focus on environmental protection and sustainable development. And they're obviously we are reaching a breaking point with respect to climatic change. All of us have seen how recently we have read news reports of glaciers in Greenland melting, portion of Antarctica glacier also melting, and very high temperatures seen in Canada. For example, they saw something like 45 degrees Fahrenheit, which is unimaginable. In fact, they will not even be 45 degrees centigrade, sorry, which is unimaginable. I hope it is audible. Am I audible?
Audible, sir. Very much audible, sir. Please go ahead, sir. You are audible, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So we would have seen that in countries like Canada, they saw 45 degrees centigrade. In fact, 45 degrees Fahrenheit itself will be too high for them. So that is the kind of place, but they were seeing temperatures like that. So definitely we are reaching, and we are seeing unseasonal floods everywhere. Chennai floods we saw, Bangalore floods we saw. So these are all not common, which we have not experienced earlier. We are seeing such sudden changes in climate, which is definitely concerted action by all the countries in the world is required in order to bring down the ill effects. Similarly, our COVID experience, we saw that earlier what used to be local occurrences, suppose there is a disease previously, it used to be confined to a particular region, maybe in parts of Africa, parts of India. You will have a disease. Now, with the time, it will go away. It will not spread that quickly or that fast to other countries. But with COVID, we have seen that it has spread far and wide in a matter of days. That is because of increased international travel, increased meetings, increased people migration, and increased people travel across the world. So definitely such things also matter. Sorry. So what is to give you some examples of efforts that have been, it's not as if we have not so far taken any steps to mitigate the efforts. There are a lot of efforts that have been taken across the world in order to mitigate the ill effects of our own practices. If you look at first example is the concept of green buildings. There is a green building council in the USA and in India and in the USA also. And every country has a green building council which requires public buildings to reduce lighting and air conditioning costs through maximizing natural ventilation. So you can see airports also are designed. You can see airports marked as green airport, green development, all those. That is what it means is that they meet a specific requirement. They meet a particular requirement that ventilation and lighting are not dependent on electricity, but they are dependent on the natural lighting and ventilation. Similarly, there's a requirement for rainwater harvesting in areas, drought-prone areas, including places like Chennai. So that seems to have a good effect on reducing the groundwater depletion. Similarly, the next thing that we have is, of course, limits on NOx and SOx emission from power plants, which people from BHL, they are very much aware. This was issued as a Ministry of Environment and Forest Gazette notification. And it mandates that emission has to be lower than 100 mg per normal meter cube for plants commissioned after 2017. The deadline for compliance is coming up shortly, December 2022. Maybe they will extend it because of the war situation and all such things in Ukraine. Or maybe they will force it. We don't know. But as of now, the deadline is December 2022. And all of us are aware of Euro norms for pollution emission. That is, cars meet Euro standards, Euro 4, Euro 5, Euro 6 and all that. So these are all measures to reduce pollution from vehicles. Similarly, there are efficiency classes that are mandated for motors. They say that IE2, IE3. standard efficiency, high efficiency, premium efficiency, and all that. And each particular application is required to meet, to adopt a minimum level of class. That is, for example, a pump set, if you take, has to be a minimum IE2. So this kind of standards based on the application are being pursued. So as we see, events like major climatic changes across the world have forced governments to act. But at the same time, had we acted sooner, we could have lessened the effect. For example, had we enforced the rules that are already in place, ensure that our lakes and our water bodies are not approved for construction, are not approved for building construction. And similarly, we have ensured that the developments are take into account the infrastructure available. What is the water available? What is the electricity available in that particular area? And whether it is possible to cater to the higher population that the development will entail. All those, if we had factored in and enforced, probably we could have lessened the effect of that things like flooding that we see in our cities. So sustainable development, that is the theme of the day. Everybody talks about sustainable development. And actually, if you see, India, that people in India, we are all early adopters of this. Learning from our own past will give us ideas about sustainable development. What does sustainable development mean? It means that whatever development you do, it does not harm the environment in a negative way, the ill effects that it creates can be recouped through subsequent natural processes. That is what sustainable development means. So older generation people like myself and probably Selvaraj sir or Madhuramani sir will remember the times when milk was delivered in recyclable bottles. That is, we used to get milk in bottles, not in plastic sachets. Similarly, sweets and savories were packed in leaves, even in hotels. So all these are sustainable development practices, but unfortunately, we did not scale up to meet the demand. So we adopted the easy route of using plastics. Here, there's an interesting example of a Red Indian story, an old Red Indian story. As you know, the Europeans migrated to America first, and then they took over the land. At that time, they saw that the natives, the Red Indians who were living in America at that time, they would fight fierce battles with them. So initially, the battles were fought because the white man also wanted a particular, say, a very fertile place. Then at one point of time, they saw that their development required constructing telegraph poles across the country. So they really did not want any fertile land. So they thought that, okay, we don't need fertile land. So let us put it up in barren areas. And definitely maybe they'll not fight for such places. Then, but unfortunately, they saw that the Red Indians fought them the same fierce way, even for the barren land. And these people tried all their possible ways, their methods of this thing. That is what they did was, they tried to go for a barter deal with them. That is, they'll give you so much, just we want barren land for us to build the telegraph. Even so, they did not. At that time, the Red Indian chief is supposed to have said that when they made the barter deal, that is, they'll give this, you give the land. They told, the Red Indian leader told that that is a strange thing that you are giving, strange offer that you are making. We believe that man belongs to the earth. The earth doesn't belong to man. So how are we? How do you expect us to sell the land to you? So that is something that all of us talk about, but that is something that the Red Indians practiced. That is, they took it as a principle. It is something that is that comes to my mind when talking about this saving the world. That is about the environment. And the other thing that they said, the Red Indian chief said, is that if you construct telegraph poles, you will be killing the eagles. And when the eagle is gone, what will the world come to? The eagles, maybe you and I think that eagles don't really affect you in your everyday life. But for the Red Indians, he says that the Red Indian chief says that when the eagle is gone, what will we have? That will be the end of living and the beginning of existence. So that is the kind of commitment they have to protect the environment. So similar stories we have from the Indian side also, from our own native side also. So they say there's a saying that fast we go alone, to travel far go together. So in this journey, in this long journey for making the world a better place, we need to travel far because there are a lot of things that we need to do. We need to ensure that development does not damage the environment. Of the wealth that is created is more evenly distributed. Food is available for everyone. There are no wars and there is peace everywhere. This is the kind of vision that will make a better world. And in order to have that, again, we go back to, it's not something that is new. There is a prayer song as part of Rig Veda, which says, Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahano Bhunaktu, Saha Viryam Karavavahi, Tejas Vinavadita Mastu, Ma Vidvishavahi. What it means is that this is an old Rigvedic prayer for the betterment of the world. It says that Om, may we all be protected. All means all people in the world. May we all be nourished. And may we all work together with great energy. May our intellect be sharpened. And let there not be any animosity or hatred among us. Let there be peace in the world. Peace everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ramesh, sir. It's an excellent delivery, sir. Really covered all the basics and what is going on around us, what is going on around the world. Everything you delivered in a nice way. Thank you so much, sir. It was a nice presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have a question, sir. That everywhere, standards we have in all the engineering fields, automobile, telecommunications, our IT, computer science and all. Correct. I have a query. Still, we are government of India is telling to charging pin, Still, we have, C pin and the old pin. People are roaming with the various pins,
Yes.
Why government has directed, Minister of Government, the IT industry, they directed the manufacturer to come with a common charger for laptop, for cell phone, for, mobile bank, everything. Still, it is yet to mature, I think. And
Yes,
there is a direction given by the government recently, I think last 3-4 months, government of our IT ministry is talking about that. Like that, many areas still we have to evolve, improvement. That's
yes,
what is you can share your thoughts are in that.
There are 2 points. That's a good question, Selvaraj sir. And there are 2 points to this. One is that standard, as I said, is a shared. That is, it's not. It cannot. Not all standards can be enforced. So standards are it has to be accepted and adopted by all the stakeholders. Like, for example, all the manufacturers need to come together and come to a consensus. Today, what happens is that one manufacturer feels that his way of his charging methodology is better than the others. That is his USP. So he is not willing to adopt the common practice. That is one reason why you have a different charging pin. For example, Apple will say that this is the charging methodology that I follow is the best. Similarly, Samsung also will say that. So it has to be, there has to be compromise. Yes, when it is forced by law, today it's not yet forced by law. It is only a recommendation that the government has given. And various manufacturers are at different points of development, and they will avoid. This is one first reason. Second reason is that most of the mobile manufacturers are not local. That is, most of the manufacturers are also from outside India. You have Korea, you have America, you have China. All of them make mobile phones, and it is difficult to force them to follow a particular methodology for your country alone. So they will adopt a standard. They'll have to come to a consensus internationally and then sell it in India. That will be an easier process than to make it specific, to make a charger specific for India. This is one reason. The second reason. The third is that this is an evolving situation. That is, you have mobile phones we are changing every 1 year or every 2 years. So for them to adopt, that is, they come up with a better battery, better charging process so frequently that every model will have an innovation. It has not yet matured to that kind of a situation where you can have a standard infrastructure. This is the third reason. That is why we are in an evolving situation. Maybe, yes, as you say, if we have, like our electric plugs, if we have a common standard, we should have that anytime soon. Maybe within the next 3 to 5 years, we should have that. Then that once that comes in, maybe we'll have a better enforcement.
Anyway, sir, that people, whether it is Apple or, Samsung, whomever maybe, but they sell within the country now. Okay, they are selling throughout the world. Is not.
Yeah, that is the problem. That is the problem. That is why they are not adopt Indian government standards. They will have to...
Everybody can use it.
Correct.
And there is a question for you, sir. There one Mr. John Rajakumar, a research scholar, is asking about, sir, how important standards in research field? Kindly share your views, sir. Mr. John Rajakumar is a research scholar in Annamalai University, sir.
Very good. That's a good question, sir. In fact, several standards have originated from research. As we see, standards are at the forefront of technology development. So there are cases where the standards drive the development also. That is, there is a standard that is issued. For example, if you look at in the telecommunications field, generally the standards are issued before, for example, if you look at the latest wireless standards, the manufacturers will come to a consensus, and the standard will be issued before the product is developed. So all the manufacturers will work towards meeting a particular standard. So that way, standards are very important for research also. And if research also is focused, if universities are focused towards establishing standards for the future, that is for future products, then those have to be adopted by all the manufacturers. That, in fact, is the most structured way of development and most equitable way of development. So standards in the research field are important, especially in areas like communication, where standards precede the product development.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Participants, if you have any questions, you can ask, sir. Otherwise, we can move to the next agenda. Sir John Rajakumar conveyed his thanks to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Welcome.
And Mr. Karupasamy has appreciated the brief and informative presentation on World Standard theme of this year. So Dr. Karupasamy has appreciated your presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Padramani has appreciated your nice presentation like that.
Thank you, sir.
And I have experience, sir, that recently I had some, using laptop over 3-4 brands. Earlier I used Lenovo. Before that I used Dell. Now I am using MI. Now evolving. What I see is now the MI has given latest. I purchased about 2 months back. It is giving with C-pin charger now.
Yes.
That is almost it fits with all the mobile phones. C-pin almost people are moving towards C-pin. That's why.
Yes,
that's an indication of what I observed from the experience.
Yes, definitely.
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. John has one question, sir. Hello, sir.
John Rajakumar again. Where shall one researcher find standard documents for educational purposes, sir?
Actually, most of the standards, standards bodies, they make the standards in such a way that it is one of the negatives of standards is that standards today are very expensive. But most of the standards bodies, they provide very discounted editions for students. If you look at ASME or British Standard or whatever, they have schemes by which the educational institutions can get them at a very huge, steep discount. That is one way. There are, of course, various websites available where you can see standards, but these are not official sites. That is, if you want to meet an audit requirement, you cannot cite this reference as your to the auditor. For example, if you have an ISO certification, if you want an ISO certification, then they expect that you have the valid original ISO standard with your organization. But as a student, you have various websites which provide standards for reference, but which cannot be used for compliance. For audit purposes, for compliance purposes, you cannot quote these standards, these references, but you can always look them up for study. That kind of thing. There are various sites that are available in the internet.
John Rajakumar says NACE standards are not unable to accessible, sir. That is telling.
Maybe
NACE standards are unable to accessible, sir.
Which standards?
NACE, NACE.
NACE. Oh, okay,
NACE standards are not able to accessible, sir. Like this.
Yes, there are some standards which you may not be able to get so easily outside. I'm not very sure about specifically NACE standards, but then one thing that you can do is that you can directly contact the originating agency and see whether they'll be able to provide it at a discounted rate for your institution.
That is says corrosion standards, sir. He says NACE standards, corrosion standards. Yeah.
Okay. So there are some standards which are difficult to get. I'm not sure about NACE particularly.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
You can unshare your screen, sir. 2 more agendas, sir. Then we will close the program, sir. Kindly
unshare. Sure, I'll unshare. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very
much. Please, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, Ramesh, sir?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Now, participants, do you have any more questions? You can ask, sir. Otherwise, we move to the next agenda. Thank you, sir. It was an excellent presentation, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome, sir.
Basics and what is going on around us, you shared a nice way. You answered all the questions in a nice way. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
And I thank all the participants throughout India for participating in today's program. Thank you so much. I call upon now Engineer Kevin. Sir, Ramesh, sir, do you want to say anything, sir?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. I had a nice session. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you for accepting your invitation. And it was a knowledge treat on standards. Really, you delivered nicely, very nicely. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Now I call upon Dr. Kevin R. Kumar, our Honorary Secretary, to announce the next week's program. So over to Dr. Kevin. Kevin, sir? Are you there? Dr. Kevin? Dr. Kevin, sir? I think it's a network any problem. I don't know. I'll announce the next week's program. Next week, we have got 2510 AGM next Tuesday. There is no lecture webinar on the day. So that is for the members. That is the notice is given separately for the members of Institute of Engineers. On 1/11/2022, there is an interesting program on third-party audit ISO and its techniques. It's going to be delivered by Engineer R. Krishnamurthy, ex-ONGC General Manager, Mumbai. That is, I request all the members to all the participants today, and I'll request all the participants to share with your friends. So it will have an interesting program, and we can have a interesting talk on next the 1/11 Tuesday. That is next month, November 1st week. That's all. Now I call upon Engineer D. Sendil Kumar, our Honorary Secretary for Computer Science of India, one of the participating association of today's program, to propose vote of thanks. Over to Engineer Sendil Kumar.
Very good evening to all.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good evening to all, sir. This World Standards Day pays tribute to thousands of men and women all over the world who develop voluntary standards for the advancement and welfare of societies. Also, our government is promoting electric vehicles now, sir. So there's a plan for government to go for battery swapping technology. So users need not, end users of car need not buy the battery. They need to just lease the battery, and they can just going and filling the petrol. They just need to swap the batteries. So for such things to happen, the standards are driving the developments, and these things will be visualizing in few years, matter of years. And I would like to thank Silva sir for giving the opening address and for reading standards theme of the year. I thank Dr. Garpusamy, former chairman IEI, for briefing on statutory day celebrations at IEI and welcoming the speaker. I thank Dr. Madhuramani for introducing the speaker to the audience. I professionally thank today's speaker and the chief guest, Mr. Ramesh, General Manager, former General Manager BHL, General Manager Engineering BHL, Trichy. I'm proud to say that I'm associated with him for the past two decades at Engineering IT. Thank you, sir, for crisply elaborating on standards, acts, codes, regulations, importance of standards in daily life, shared vision for a better world, example, by adopting sustainable development, and most importantly, the value exhibited by Red Indians, sharing the value exhibited by Red Indians, like land doesn't belong to man, but man belongs to land. I also thank all the chairman, secretary, various professional bodies, office bearers, including current and past. I thank last but not least the Almighty for making today's event a great success. Thank you all once again.
Thank you, Senthil Kumar, for a nice vote of thanks. Thank you so much. You covered all the persons. Thank you, Ramesh sir. With your permission, shall we close it, sir? Ramesh sir. Thank you very much. With the permission.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Ramesh,
thank you, Selvaraj sir. Thank you,
Yes, sir.
Madhuramani sir, all participants. Very
Thank
nice
you so much,
meeting
sir.
again on this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. With the permission of all, we'll close the program. Thank you so much. Thank you. Good night. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Wish you a happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali to all.
Thank you, sir. Good night, sir.